On Mother's Day, my daughter-in-law handed me flowers, a sweet gesture hiding a cruel card. Last flowers before the nursing home. My son sat silent, her chilling smile unwavering. That was the moment I finally broke. Instead of fading away, I took the microphone and exposed everything to the entire church. This is my story. Like, share, and let us know where you are listening from. The sun streamed through the stained glass windows of Oak Ridge Community Church, painting the familiar nave in hues of amber and violet. It was Mother's Day, a day that, for Eleanor Vance, 65, usually brought a quiet joy, a sense of gratitude for her life and for Michael, her only son. Today, however, a knot of dread had been tightening in her stomach since she'd seen her daughter-in-law, Serena Thompson, carrying a suspiciously large bouquet of roses as they walked in. Eleanor sat in her usual pew a few rows back, next to Michael and Serena. The air buzzed with hymns and Reverend Davies' soothing voice, but Eleanor felt a prickle of unease. Serena, elegant and poised in a cream-colored dress, leaned over, a dazzling smile fixed on her face. "Happy Mother's Day, Eleanor," she chirped, extending the vibrant arrangement of red roses. They were beautiful, too beautiful, almost theatrical. "Thank you, dear," Eleanor replied, her voice a little drier than she intended. She took the flowers, their petals cool against her fingers, and immediately spotted the small, cream-colored card nestled amongst the leaves. Her heart gave a sudden, painful lurch. She knew with an icy certainty that whatever was written on that card would not be a simple message of love. With a deep breath, she slid the card from its envelope. The elegant script, Serena's own, seemed to mock her. Eleanor's eyes scanned the few words, and her hands began to tremble, betraying the shock that rippled through her. "Last flowers before the nursing home." The words were like a physical blow, stealing the air from her lungs. She gripped the card, crumpling it slightly, her vision blurring. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Serena lean in closer to Michael, whispering something in his ear. A sweet, almost innocent smile played on Serena's lips, but to Eleanor it was chilling, a triumphant glint in her eyes. Michael merely nodded, a slight, almost imperceptible shrug. The casual dismissal of his mother's impending humiliation pierced Eleanor deeper than the card itself. His silence was a betrayal, a tacit agreement. Eleanor swallowed hard, forcing herself to look away, to focus on the sermon. But the words of Reverend Davies, preaching on the sanctity of motherhood and the biblical command to honor one's parents, became a bitter parody in her ears. How could she honor a day that had just been so profoundly desecrated? This wasn't an isolated incident. This was the culmination of 3 years of Serena's insidious campaign. It began subtly with well-meaning concerns about Eleanor's declining memory or safety. Serena would drop hints about Michael being overwhelmed by Eleanor's needs or suggest that a lovely community for seniors might be a better fit for her. These were always cloaked in kindness, delivered with a sympathetic sigh and a squeeze of the hand, making Eleanor feel irrational for even resenting them. Michael, caught in the middle, rarely contradicted Serena, often echoing her sentiments with a vague nod or a quiet, "Mom, she just wants what's best for you." Eleanor had felt herself shrinking, her world becoming smaller, her confidence eroded by the constant gentle pressure. She'd always brushed it off, made excuses for Michael, for Serena, for herself, but last flowers before the nursing home? That was no longer a hint. That was a declaration of war. As Reverend Davies concluded his sermon, inviting the congregation to share personal reflections or prayers, Eleanor felt a strange calm descend upon her. The trembling in her hands stopped. The knot in her stomach unwound, replaced by a cold, steely resolve. Michael remained seated, his hand resting on Serena's knee, a silent testament to where his loyalties lay. His gaze was fixed forward, avoiding Eleanor's eyes. Eleanor's gaze swept across the familiar faces in the pews, neighbors, friends, people she had known for decades. They looked so peaceful, so unaware of the cruel drama unfolding just a few feet away. Then, without a moment of conscious thought, her hand went up, firm and steady. A ripple of surprise went through the congregation. Eleanor rarely spoke during these sharing moments. Reverend Davies, startled, gestured for the usher to bring her the microphone. Eleanor rose slowly, her movements deliberate, every eye in the church now fixed on her. She walked to the aisle, still. Feeling a strange mix of fear and exhilaration, her heart pounded a steady rhythm against her ribs. When the microphone was placed in her hand, she felt its weight, the cold metal a grounding presence. She cleared her throat, her voice surprisingly strong as it echoed through the silent sanctuary. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her gaze sweeping from the altar to the back of the church, momentarily settling on Michael and Serena, whose sweet smile had frozen in place. "Today is Mother's Day, a day when we are reminded to honor our mothers, our families." A slight pause, heavy with unspoken meaning. "And today," she continued, her voice gaining strength, "I received these lovely flowers." She held them up for a moment, the vibrant red a stark contrast to the grim reality. With them came a note. It said, "Last flowers before the nursing home." A collective gasp went through the congregation, a shocked murmur, heads turned. Whispers erupted, quickly quelled by the gravity of the moment. Serena's face had gone pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and fury. Michael shifted uncomfortably, finally meeting Eleanor's gaze, but quickly looking away. "For 3 years," Eleanor's voice resonated, "Serena Thompson, my daughter-in-law, has been systematically trying to separate me from my son, Michael." She spoke calmly, deliberately, each word a hammer blow. "She has tried to control Michael's life, making it impossible for him to visit me without her presence, inventing excuses for why I couldn't join family gatherings. She has spread rumors about my mental health, my memory, my ability to live independently, all under the guise of concern for my well-being." Her eyes, clear and unblinking, fixed on Serena's horrified face. "Let me be absolutely clear to everyone here, and most importantly, to Serena and Michael. I am not going to any nursing home, not now, not ever, until I decide it is my time. And I am no longer going to pretend this behavior is acceptable. I will not be silenced, and I will not be dismissed." She paused, taking a deep, shuddering breath. The silence in the church was deafening, a vacuum created by her words. Then, with a definitive motion, Eleanor turned and handed the microphone back to the usher. She didn't wait for a response, didn't look back. As she walked away, a strained voice, Serena's, broke the quiet, tinged with a desperate attempt at nonchalance. "She's just confused. You know how she gets." But Eleanor didn't falter. She walked straight down the aisle, her spine rigid, past the stunned faces and gaping mouths. The heavy oak doors of the church swung open, revealing the bright sunshine outside. Stepping into the light, she felt a profound sense of release, a burden lifted from her shoulders. The pain was still there, a dull ache in her chest, but it was overshadowed by a fierce, invigorating freedom. She had spoken her truth, and for the first time in a long time, she felt entirely her own. The heavy oak doors of Oak Ridge Community Church had closed behind Eleanor, sealing her decision. For a moment, the sunlight felt like a blessing, a cleansing balm after the stifling atmosphere inside. She walked home, the vibrant red roses still clutched in her hand, the cruel card's words seared into her memory. That Sunday, she felt a wild, defiant energy, the thrill of finally speaking her truth. But as the days turned into a week, the silence from her son, Michael, grew into an oppressive weight. 7 days, not a single call. Her phone, usually a lifeline, lay dormant on the kitchen counter, a cruel monument to his absence. Eleanor lived in the same house for 30 years, a home filled with memories of laughter, family dinners, and Michael's childhood. Now it felt vast and empty, the silence amplifying her isolation. She'd always imagined Michael would be the one to check on her, to stand by her side as she aged. Instead, he had become a ghost, haunting her thoughts but never appearing. Hours after her dramatic exit from the church, Michael's text had finally arrived. Not a call, not an apology, but a cold, concise message that cut deeper than any shout. "You've embarrassed us all. Serena is devastated. I need space right now." The words were devoid of warmth, of any recognition of the pain she'd endured. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't question Serena's actions. He simply blamed her. Eleanor thought back to the Michael she knew before Serena. He had been a vibrant, affectionate son, always ready with a hug or a joke. Their relationship had been so spontaneous, so easy. He would drop by unannounced, just to say hello, or call simply to chat about his day. They shared an unspoken understanding, a bond forged through years of shared life. Now that boy seemed a stranger, replaced by a man whose priorities were rigidly defined by his wife. Serena had been the architect of this transformation. Gradually, subtly, she had become the gatekeeper. Calls to Michael went unanswered, only for Serena to text back hours later, "Michael's busy. I'll tell him you called." Visits became carefully orchestrated affairs, always with Serena present, her watchful eyes missing nothing. Eleanor found herself having to schedule time with her own son, and even then their conversations felt stilted, superficial, as if Serena's unspoken presence hung in the air, censoring every word. Michael, once so quick to defend his mother, had slowly retreated, his voice growing fainter, his opinions increasingly aligning with Serena's. The isolation became palpable. On Wednesday, a knock at the door startled Eleanor. It was Beatrice Miller, a kindly woman from the church, holding a foil-covered casserole. "Hello, Eleanor," Beatrice said, her voice a little too bright, her eyes darting away, unable to meet Eleanor's gaze. She usually lingered, chatted over tea. Today she seemed anxious, eager to leave. Eleanor invited her in, the scent of the casserole filling the air. Beatrice sat on the edge of the sofa, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. After a few forced pleasantries, the real reason for her visit emerged. "Eleanor, dear," Beatrice began hesitantly, "Reverend Davies asked me to check in on you. There's been talk." Eleanor felt a cold dread trickle down her spine. "Talk about what, Beatrice?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Beatrice wrung her hands. "Michael. He spoke to the Reverend after the service. He said you were, well, showing signs of confusion, that you were imagining slights from Serena." She rushed the words out as if getting them out quickly would lessen their sting. "He said you hadn't been yourself lately, that you'd misinterpreted Serena's kindness." The betrayal hit Eleanor with physical force. Michael, her son, had not only allowed Serena's cruelty, but was now actively participating in her campaign, painting Eleanor as delusional. "Did Michael tell Reverend Davies that I had a full physical and neurological checkup just last month?" Eleanor asked, her voice cutting through Beatrice's rambling. "Did he mention that Dr. Finch declared me perfectly healthy, with no signs of cognitive decline whatsoever?" Beatrice looked down, her gaze fixed on the floral pattern of Eleanor's rug. "He didn't mention that, dear," she murmured, her discomfort evident. The silence that followed was heavy, pregnant with the unspoken truth. Michael had deliberately omitted crucial information, twisting the narrative to support Serena's agenda. He was using her mental capacity as a weapon. Eleanor felt a profound weariness settle over her. "Thank you for the casserole, Beatrice," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. "I appreciate you bringing it over." It was a polite dismissal, and Beatrice, clearly relieved, quickly made her excuses and left. As the door clicked shut, Eleanor understood. She wasn't just isolated. She was being systematically discredited. A chilling realization began to form in her mind. The note, the one from Serena. Eleanor's purse, the one she'd taken to church, lay on the hall table where she'd dropped it on Sunday. She rummaged through it, her fingers fumbling, searching for the small, cream-colored card. It wasn't there. She emptied the contents onto the table. Her wallet, keys, tissues, a pen, her glasses case. No card. Her mind raced. Had it fallen out? No, she remembered clutching it, then putting it carefully back in the small inner pocket of her purse. It must have been during the chaos of her departure, or perhaps even while she was speaking at the microphone. Someone had taken it, Serena, undoubtedly, or perhaps even Michael, realizing its damning potential. It was her only concrete piece of evidence, proof of Serena's malicious intent, and now it was gone. A cold, stark fear gripped her. The nursing home threat wasn't just a cruel joke anymore. It was a tangible, executable plan. Michael held her medical power of attorney, a document she had signed years ago, thinking it was a loving gesture, a safety net should she ever truly become incapacitated. Now it was a sword hanging over her head. He could, with Serena's urging, use it to force her into a facility, claiming she was no longer competent to make her own decisions. Her own son. The thought made her stomach churn. Her home, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every creak of the floorboards a reminder of her vulnerability. She was alone, painted as mentally unstable. her words dismissed as confusion and her only proof stolen. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm her, her phone, which had been silent for so long, vibrated. An unknown number. Eleanor hesitated, then opened the message. "Charlotte, it's Brenda from the church choir. I saw what happened on Sunday. I've been through something similar. Call me if you want to talk. You're not alone." Eleanor stared at the text. Charlotte, not Eleanor. A small detail, a slight inaccuracy, but the message itself was a beacon. Brenda, the woman with the powerful alto voice who always led the hymns. A tiny, fragile spark of hope flickered in the vast darkness of her isolation. Perhaps, just perhaps, she wasn't entirely alone after all. The text from Brenda, the woman from the church choir, sat in Eleanor's phone like a small, unexpected bird, fluttering with a fragile promise. "You're not alone." Those words echoed in the silence of her home for 2 agonizing days. Calling Brenda felt like an admission, a public declaration that her life, once so orderly and predictable, was indeed spiraling out of control. Eleanor Vance, always self-reliant, always composed, found the prospect of seeking help profoundly unsettling. It was an acknowledgement of her vulnerability, of the terrifying reality that she was under attack. But the fear of Michael and Serena's plans, combined with the crushing loneliness, finally outweighed her pride. On the 3rd day, with a trembling hand, she dialed the number. Brenda's voice, warm and steady, was a balm. They agreed to meet not at the church, which now felt like enemy territory, but at Rosie's Diner, a small, unassuming spot on the outskirts of town, known for its strong coffee and discretion. When Eleanor walked in, Brenda was already there, nursing a cup of tea, her face kind and weathered, her eyes holding a deep understanding. She recognized Brenda from the choir, of course, but had never truly known her beyond Sunday pleasantries. They settled into a booth at the back, far from the bustling lunch crowd. Brenda didn't beat around the bush. "Eleanor," she began, her voice low and empathetic, "what happened on Sunday? It was awful, but it's not unusual. What you're experiencing, it has a name. It's elder abuse." Eleanor flinched. The words hung in the air, stark and brutal. Elder abuse. She had always thought of it as physical harm, neglect, something that happened to other, more vulnerable people, not to her, not from her own son and his wife. Emotional manipulation, isolation, spreading rumors about your mental health to discredit you. Brenda continued, her voice firm. "What your daughter-in-law is doing, it's textbook. It's a calculated strategy." Brenda leaned forward, her expression earnest. "I know this because I lived it." She took a deep breath, her gaze distant, lost in memory. "My own daughter, she started subtly, just like Serena. Little comments about my forgetfulness, insisting on helping me with my banking, taking over my appointments. I thought she was just being helpful. Before I knew it, she had full control of my finances, and I was in a care facility, being told it was for my own good." Eleanor listened, horrified, a cold dread creeping through her veins. This wasn't just a sympathetic ear. This was a survivor. "I managed to get out," Brenda explained, a flicker of fierce determination in her eyes. "It was pure luck. One of the aides saw through it, suspected something. She put me in touch with a woman named Martha who runs a support group. Martha helped me understand my rights. She connected me with resources, showed me how to fight back. It was a long, hard battle, Eleanor, but I won. I got my life back." Brenda reached into her purse and pulled out a small, folded card. "This is for the support group," she said, sliding it across the table. "It meets every Thursday evening. It's confidential, and it's full of people who understand exactly what you're going through." Eleanor picked up the card, her fingers tracing the embossed letters. "The Elder Advocates Group. Thursday," that was tomorrow. "Eleanor," Brenda said softly, pulling her back from her thoughts, "I heard some things at church after Sunday. Things you should know. Serena hasn't just started this. She's been actively spreading rumors about your erratic behavior for months, about you being confused, about memory issues. And Michael has been backing her up, confirming her stories. He's been telling people that your outburst on Sunday was just proof of what they've been trying to tell everyone." The revelation twisted a knife in Eleanor's heart. It was one thing to be ignored, to be subtly undermined. It was another thing entirely for her son to be actively participating in dismantling her reputation and painting her as a madwoman. This wasn't just neglect. It was an act of deliberate malice, a severing of the last threads of trust. He was helping Serena discredit her, making it easier for them to execute their plan. The betrayal was profound, a wound that felt like it would never heal. "What does she want?" Eleanor whispered, the words barely audible, though she already knew the answer. The truth articulated by Brenda still felt like a punch to the gut. Brenda's gaze was steady. "Your house, probably your savings, control. It's always about control, Eleanor. They want to make decisions for you, about your life, your property, and they want to do it without you having a say." The weight of it all pressed down on Eleanor. Her home, her sanctuary, her independence. All targets. She felt a wave of nausea, her coffee suddenly tasting bitter. The sheer audacity, the cold calculation of it all was overwhelming. She stood up abruptly, needing air, needing to escape the suffocating reality Brenda had so plainly laid out. I have to go," Eleanor stammered, fumbling for her purse. The words elder abuse echoed in her mind, a terrifying new label for her life. Brenda nodded, understanding. "Take your time, Eleanor, but please, think about coming to the meeting tomorrow. You don't have to talk, just listen. But you need to know you are not alone in this fight. There are people who will believe you, who will help you." Her voice was gentle but firm, a lifeline extended in the storm. Eleanor merely nodded, her mind reeling, and hurried out of Rosie's diner, leaving the warmth and understanding behind, stepping back into the harsh reality of her solitary battle. The card for the support group was clutched tightly in her hand, a small, tangible hope in the face of such profound betrayal. Thursday arrived, heavy with its promise of a new beginning or a new humiliation. Eleanor sat in her car outside the local community center, the support group card clutched in her hand, her heart hammered against her ribs. Should she go in? It felt like admitting defeat, a public display of her crumbling life. But the alternative, staying home, isolated, vulnerable, was even more terrifying. With a deep, shuddering breath, she pushed open the car door and stepped out, walking toward the entrance with a resolve she didn't entirely feel. Inside, a warm, inviting hum of voices met her. Brenda was there, offering a reassuring smile. A woman with kind, intelligent eyes, Martha, approached her. "Eleanor Vance? Brenda told me to expect you. Welcome." Martha's greeting was genuine, her handshake firm, and for the first time in days, Eleanor felt a fragile sense of safety. She joined the circle of about 8 other seniors. Their face, etched with life's experiences, held a shared understanding. One by one they spoke. A woman recounted her son slowly draining her bank account. A man detailed his daughter-in-law's attempts to isolate him from his grandchildren. Another shared how her sister had manipulated her into signing over property. Each story was a variation on the same theme: betrayal, manipulation, the insidious nature of familial abuse. As Eleanor listened, a profound sense of relief washed over her. She wasn't alone. These were her people, survivors, not victims. When it was her turn, Eleanor hesitated, her voice initially a hesitant whisper. But as she spoke, detailing Serena's calculated campaign, the last flowers, note, Michael's complicity in the stolen evidence, her words gained strength. The anger that had been simmering beneath the surface found an outlet, transforming into a clear, steady narrative. The group listened, nodding, their faces mirroring her pain and understanding. Martha, the group leader, listened intently, her gaze unwavering. When Eleanor finished, a heavy silence settled before Martha spoke. "Eleanor, what you've described is classic emotional and financial elder abuse. The medical power of attorney is concerning, but it's absolutely fixable. You have rights, and we have resources." She then introduced Laura Jenkins, a volunteer lawyer who specialized in elder law, whose name was on a flyer passed around. "Laura can help you with the legal aspects, and we can provide you with information on how to officially document your mental competency, so there's no room for doubt." A flicker of hope ignited within Eleanor, a tiny flame in the darkness. It wasn't over. She wasn't helpless. Arthur, a gentle-looking man with a neatly trimmed beard, passed her a laminated pamphlet. "This is a guide to elder rights," he said kindly. "It's got a lot of good information." Eleanor gripped it tightly, a tangible tool in her fight. The next morning, Eleanor woke with a new sense of purpose. Her first call was to Dr. Ron Finch, her physician of 20 years. "Dr. Finch," she began, her voice steady, "I need to request a comprehensive cognitive evaluation. Not just the usual checkup. I need something that will clearly document my mental acuity." He listened patiently, then without hesitation scheduled her for that very afternoon. "Of course, Eleanor," he said. "I'm happy to help. I know you and I have no concerns, but a formal assessment can certainly provide peace of mind." Next, she called Laura Jenkins, the volunteer lawyer. Laura's voice was calm and reassuring. She outlined the legal options, starting with the most immediate and crucial step, revoking Michael's medical power of attorney. "We can also help you draft new advance directives, appointing someone you trust implicitly," Laura explained. Eleanor paused, a wave of sadness washing over her. "But who?" she confessed, her voice cracking slightly. "I realize I don't really have anyone trustworthy right now." Laura's response was gentle but firm. "That's what the support group is for, Eleanor. You're building a new network now. You're not alone. We'll help you find someone, or several someones you can rely on." The words resonated deeply. It wasn't just about fighting Serena, it was about rebuilding her life. By the end of that week, Eleanor had accomplished more than she had thought possible in years. Dr. Finch's report came back, unequivocally stating her cognitive abilities were excellent, completely dismissing any claims of confusion or decline. Laura Jenkins, with remarkable efficiency, had helped Eleanor formally revoke Michael's power of attorney and advised her on securing her bank accounts with new protocols, requiring her direct authorization for any significant transactions. The financial vulnerability was mitigated. The legal vulnerability was addressed. Just when Eleanor thought her plate was full, Martha called with another proposition. The community center was starting an intergenerational writing program, pairing seniors as mentors with high school students who needed help finding their voices. "It's part-time, flexible," Martha explained, "and it pays a small stipend. We need someone with your clarity, Eleanor, your ability to articulate." Eleanor, still buzzing from her week's victories, felt a spark of interest, a new purpose, a way to connect, to contribute. "I'd love to," she said, a genuine smile gracing her lips for the first time in weeks. At the community center, she was introduced to Lily, a quiet, almost timid 16-year-old with thoughtful eyes. Lily struggled to articulate her frustrations about school rules, specifically a draconian dress code she felt unfairly targeted girls. Eleanor, drawing on her own recent experience of finding her voice, encouraged Lily to write, to channel her anger into powerful words. Together, they began to dissect the issue, Lily slowly gaining confidence, Eleanor rediscovering the joy of guiding and inspiring. Eleanor's days began to develop a new fulfilling rhythm. Mornings were for practicalities, consultations with Laura, calls to her bank, organizing her paperwork. Afternoons were spent at the community center, a vibrant hub of activity where she mentored Lily and connected with other volunteers. In the evenings, she embraced new pursuits, a beginner's computer class, exploring online resources, and even restarting her long-neglected garden, finding solace and joy in the simple act of nurturing life. The emptiness that had pervaded her home began to recede, replaced by a sense of purpose and a burgeoning network of support. Eleanor Vance was not just surviving, she was thriving. Don't go anywhere. If you're enjoying Eleanor's journey of reclaiming her life, remember to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss how her story unfolds. Now let's see what happens next. Months flew by, each one bringing new growth and purpose to Eleanor's life. Her garden, once a neglected patch, bloomed with vibrant colors, mirroring the resurgence within her. The intergenerational writing program flourished under her guidance. And Lily, her young protege, found her voice and even had her piece on school dress codes published in the local paper. Eleanor herself discovered a new passion, blogging. Her blog, Independent Spirit, Navigating Senior Life, became a quiet success, a platform where she shared reflections on aging, autonomy, and the unexpected joys of late-life reinvention. She had truly reclaimed her autonomy. About a month after Mother's Day, as the leaves began to turn golden, a text message from Michael appeared on her phone. "Mom, we need to talk. Christmas dinner at our house." Eleanor stared at the screen. The old Eleanor would have immediately drafted an acceptance, grateful for the crumbs of attention. But the new Eleanor, fortified by the support group and her newfound purpose, paused. She deleted the draft. She deserved more than an afterthought. This wasn't an invitation born of genuine warmth. It was a strategic move, no doubt orchestrated by Serena, to regain some semblance of control or to test the waters. She discussed it with the Elder Advocates group. Brenda and Martha offered sage advice. "Go," Martha suggested, "but go on your terms. You hold the power now, Eleanor. Show them that." With their encouragement, Eleanor decided to accept. Not out of obligation, but out of a calm, deliberate choice to face them, armed and ready. Christmas Day arrived, crisp and cold. Eleanor dressed carefully, choosing a smart navy dress that exuded confidence. In her hand, she carried not a festive gift, but a slim, leather-bound folder. Inside were copies of Dr. Finch's pristine neurological evaluation and her updated legal documents. This wasn't a family reunion, it was a confrontation. Michael and Serena's house, a sprawling modern home in a manicured suburb, was elaborately decorated, glittering with festive lights and ornaments. When Eleanor rang the doorbell, Michael opened it, his face looking oddly tired, lines of strain around his eyes. "Mom, he said, his voice a little stiff, a forced smile on his lips. "Come in." Serena emerged from the living room, resplendent in a green velvet dress that accentuated her striking features. Her smile, however, was tight, a mere stretching of lips that didn't reach her eyes. "Eleanor, so glad you could make it." Her tone was clipped, devoid of the saccharine sweetness Eleanor had once found so insidious. They moved into the living room, where a crackling fire offered a deceptive warmth. After a few awkward pleasantries about the weather, Michael cleared his throat. "Mom," he began, his voice carefully neutral, "we really do need to talk about your concerning behavior at church a few months ago. It really upset Serena." Serena interjected smoothly. "Honestly, Eleanor, it was just a silly joke about the nursing home. You completely misinterpreted it. We were just teasing. You know how you get." Her dismissive wave of the hand was infuriatingly familiar. Eleanor remained calm. She simply placed her folder on the highly polished coffee table, the soft thud echoing in the room. "Actually, Michael, Serena," she said, her voice steady and clear, "there's no room for misinterpretation. And there's certainly no confusion on my part." She opened the folder, pulling out the official report. "As you can see, these are the results of my recent comprehensive cognitive evaluation from Dr. Finch. Perfect scores across the board. I am, in every respect, of sound mind and fully capable of managing my own affairs." She slid the document across the table toward them. Michael picked it up, his brow furrowed, scanning the pages. Serena's eyes narrowed, a flash of pure fury replacing her strained smile. The comfortable silence of the room evaporated. Following what was clearly a rehearsed script, Michael tried to pivot. "Mom, we're just worried about you. You've been making some questionable financial decisions lately. We were thinking, just to simplify things for you, perhaps we could look into selling the house. It's a lot of upkeep for one person." Eleanor didn't let him finish. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze locking first with Michael's, then with Serena's. "Michael, Serena, I've taken care of that. As of 2 months ago, I officially revoked your medical power of attorney, Michael. And I've implemented additional security measures on all my financial accounts. Any significant transaction now requires my direct personal authorization in writing. No one, not even you, Michael, can access my funds or make decisions on my behalf without my express consent." Serena's face flushed a deep crimson, her jaw tightening. Michael dropped the cognitive report onto the table, a stunned expression replacing his feigned concern. The air crackled with their disbelief and thwarted ambition. "I've taken back control of my life," Eleanor stated, her voice resonating with quiet triumph. "Completely." She allowed the statement to hang in the air, a declaration of independence. Then she pressed on, revealing the extent of her new life. And speaking of my affairs, she continued, I'm pleased to say I'm no longer just gardening. I've taken on a part-time position at the community center, coordinating the intergenerational creative writing program. In fact, I was recently interviewed for the local paper about the success of the program. Serena scoffed, a strangled sound in her throat. Michael just stared, processing. And, Eleanor added, her voice dropping to a subtly menacing tone, I'm also being considered for a speaking role at an upcoming active aging conference. They're looking for someone to speak on family dynamics in elder independence. Her eyes met Serena's directly, a clear, unspoken threat passing between them. The implication was clear. She wouldn't hesitate to share her story, to expose their tactics on a larger stage. Michael, looking truly rattled, finally intervened. He placed a hand firmly on Serena's arm, a clear signal. Mom's right, Serena, he said, his voice strained but resolute. We need to respect her independence. She's clearly capable of managing her own life. Serena yanked her arm away, her eyes blazing, and stormed off towards the kitchen, the clatter of pots and pans soon echoing through the house. The rest of Christmas dinner was tense, punctuated by Serena's huffing and the sound of her aggressively carving the turkey. Michael made awkward attempts at conversation, asking about Eleanor's garden and her writing, a desperate effort to bridge the chasm that had opened between them. Eleanor, however, merely offered polite, concise answers, savoring the taste of her freedom, the knowledge that she had finally, irrevocably, turned the tables. 1 year had passed since that pivotal Mother's Day, a year that had reshaped Eleanor's world in ways she never could have imagined. Today was her 66th birthday, and her home, once a lonely echo chamber, now buzzed with warmth and laughter. Her living room was filled with her chosen family, Brenda and Martha from the support group, Arthur with his gentle wisdom, and Lily, her bright, confident student, who now wrote for the school paper with passion. They were gathered around her, celebrating not just a birthday, but a life vibrantly lived. Eleanor caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. Her posture was straighter, her eyes held a brighter sparkle, and her smile was genuine, not the practiced, polite curve she'd used for years. The woman looking back at her was strong, content, a testament to her journey from humiliation to liberation. Just as Lily was about to light the candles on the cake, the doorbell chimed. Eleanor's heart gave a little lurch. She hadn't been expecting anyone else. She opened the door, and there stood Michael, alone, a small wrapped package held awkwardly in his hand. It had been nearly 4 months since their tense Christmas dinner, a silence that had stretched longer than any before. Michael looked uncomfortable, his gaze shifting from Eleanor to the bustling living room behind her. Mom, he started, his voice a little hoarse. Happy birthday. Michael, Eleanor replied, her voice calm, betraying none of the turmoil within her. This is a surprise. He took a deep breath. I wanted to apologize, and I have something to tell you. He fidgeted, clearly nervous. Serena and I are separated, have been for about 2 months now. Eleanor simply nodded, her expression unreadable. She felt a complicated mix of relief, sadness, and a quiet sense of vindication. After Christmas, Michael continued, his words tumbling out, after you laid everything out, I started seeing things more clearly. It wasn't just about you, Mom. It was about her control over me, too. Over everything. He looked truly exhausted, the lines around his eyes deeper than ever. I started looking through things, trying to understand. And I found emails detailing her plans, your house, your savings, how to gain control over all your assets. He met Eleanor's gaze, a profound shame in his eyes. Everything you said she wanted, it was true, it was all there. Eleanor's suspicions, confirmed in black and white. It hurt, but it also solidified her resolve. When I confronted her, Michael whispered, she didn't even deny it. Not really. She just said I was being ridiculous and that it was for my own good. That's when I knew I had to leave. I couldn't be a part of it anymore. And I couldn't live like that, Mom. I couldn't live with her or with myself knowing what I'd let happen. He looked down at his hands, twisting the small package. I'm the one who should be sorry, Mom. I let her come between us. I failed you. I failed to protect you. And I've missed you. I've missed my mom. His confession, raw and genuine, tugged at Eleanor's heartstrings. She had longed for this moment, for this acknowledgement, for so long. Just then, Lily appeared at the doorway, a brightly lit cake in her hands. "Mrs. Vance, we're ready for cake," she chirped. Eleanor turned to Michael. "Would you like to stay for cake, Michael? And meet some of my friends?" He looked up, surprised, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I'd like that, Mom, very much." As Michael stepped into the living room, the atmosphere shifted slightly, but Eleanor's friends, having been fully briefed on her journey, were gracious. Eleanor, taking Michael's arm, spoke softly. "Things are different now, Michael. I'm different. I've built a life I love, a life that's mine. You are welcome to be a part of it, but it has to be on terms of mutual respect, and no more silences." Michael nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. He genuinely tried to connect with Eleanor's friends. He laughed with Arthur over a gardening anecdote and even offered Lily some practical architecture advice about her school's building design, something he hadn't done in years. It was a fragile beginning, but it was a beginning. Later, as the party wound down and Eleanor's friends began to leave, Michael presented his gift. It was a small, elegantly wrapped package. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a beautiful silver frame. It held a faded photograph of a young Eleanor, vibrant and smiling, holding a 5-year-old Michael on her hip, his chubby arms wrapped tightly around her neck. It was a picture from a time when their bond was simple, untroubled, and pure. "It reminded me of who we used to be," Michael said, his voice soft. "Who we could be again. Maybe." Eleanor's eyes welled up. She looked at the photograph, then at her son, his face etched with regret but also hope. "It will take time, Michael," she said, her voice gentle. "A lot of time to rebuild that trust." He met her gaze, a new clarity in his eyes. "I have time, Mom. I really do." Eleanor looked around her home, filled with the warmth of her new friends, the scent of vanilla cake, and the promise of a renewed, albeit changed, relationship with her son. Her year-long journey from the deep humiliation of Mother's Day had led her to unexpected liberation, to a profound sense of self-reliance, true friendship, and a purpose that ignited her spirit. She had faced her greatest fears, fought for her independence, and emerged stronger. As Michael softly said, "Happy birthday, Mom," Eleanor realized that for the first time in a very long time, it truly was a happy birthday. Not just because of the gifts or the cake, but because her son finally saw her, truly saw her, not as a burden or a pawn, but as Eleanor Vance, an independent, strong, and capable woman with a life entirely her own.